morning.
Good morning.
I'm busy eating birthday cake. I am. I had birthday cake delivered.
Yes.
Delivered to me just a second ago.
Isn't that nice? Oh yeah. And people are going nuts in the chat. In the chat too. Look at that.
I know all these people, wonderful people, all these people.
All these people. Oh, well, wait a second. We have to stop. We've got breaking news.
Uh-oh.
What is it?
You know how at Christmas time we had Santa Claus write in and request specifically that we have.
You brought my mother back from the grave.
No, but we've got a special message just from the Easter Bunny. Yay.
Wow, he's looking very fine, that Easter Bunny.
He's looking very fine. And the Easter Bunny says, "Happy birthday, Mags."
And Mags. Mags, are you ready?
Oh,
everyone join in on the chat.
Vocal warm-ups this morning.
Happy birthday, dear.
Wow. Oh, nice trill. Thank you. Oh, that is very sweet. We will not have any Easter eggs for anybody. There's no Easter Bunny doing WikiTree stuff for people. But yeah, that's funny. That's great, you guys. That's fun.
We had a little plotting.
Yeah, a little bit.
What can we do?
Thank you so much. Yeah, Brian, get your banjo out. Got a lot of people here this morning. Thank you so much for the birthday wishes. Love that. Lisa, I had planned to get up early and go to my favorite coffee shop because I get free coffee today. So, but I didn't do that. So everybody's here that's usually here. Mary Sleppy, Margaret Toll, Susie Carta, Janet Isles, Lisa Gervais, Chris Ferriello. And I apologize if you hear dinging on my side of the computer this morning. It's birthday wishes from people's, which I love. Thank you so much for that. And I have a fiddle. Okay, so I have a banjo. I have a guitar or two. I have a lap dulcimer. Brian's got a banjo. You have a flute. Greg's got. We could start a band.
We could start a band.
We could start a WikiTree band. But all of that aside, it is still the Saturday Livecast. So we're going to go on and talk about the question of the week. Do you have any authors in your family? Now, I got to look. I didn't even look really to see if we have one of our authors in here with us today. I'm scrolling. I don't see her yet. I don't see her. Where is she? No, I don't see her. Okay, so if she comes in, she'll be in our list of authors in just a minute. So question of the week, fun. We had a couple. So do you have any authors or poets in your family tree? And that's a great question. There were 43 answers and 3 comments. And so I have some pages saved for us to look at. I'm going to jump over to K. Smith first. And he's got uncertain in brackets. Got to upvote these questions, these answers. Known as the Bard of Lone Jack, Martin Del Rice. His works include rural rhymes and talks and tales of olden times, familiarly called the Sage of Lone Jack. Rice is said to be the only vote for Abraham Lincoln in his part of the county. So Abraham Lincoln was the old-style Republican Party, which is now the Democratic Party. So you get the gist of that. He lived among some of the most notorious men known in the Civil War who were Southern sympathizers. They were. Yet no harm became him. He was witness to an execution of men trying to obey Order Number 11. 6 men, including his son-in-law, were executed as they left their homes with their belongings. Rice and his son's life was spared as he had his papers at hand declaring his support of the Union. The other men ranged from 17 to the mid-60s were not so fortunate. I start this post as uncertain as I have yet to connect all of Rice's Jackson County from that time period. My great aunt was Helen Rice Smith. So the next generation or two, maybe 3, that Henry Wadsworth fellow was a 12th cousin, 4th time removed. That's really why I read this whole thing, was to get to that very last one, Henry Watt. That's a fun story. Let's see. Sandy Paddock. Sandy, I don't know if you're in there. Happy Appalachian party. You know, you got an Appalachian birthday party going on up here in the North Country. And if I say that to the Appalachian people, they're all going to think that I live up on a mountain somewhere.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
right. The North Country for me is really, you know, up here. One of my favorite uncles is published author and poet. His poems are of his life as a child growing up to an adult in and around the coal mines of Appalachia, West Virginia. Now she's saying Appalachia, West Virginia. Is that actually the town? Somebody look that up. Is there a town called Appalachia? But there's not a comma. So I don't know the grammar. Pen name of Xavier Summerfield. He has written a few novels, including Ridges of the Clouds, on how the Civil War changed those that fought on the grisly battlefields. It took him 33 years to finish writing that. Wow. So I do have cake here. So I'm gonna eat my cake while. Oh my God. Okay, Sandy Paddock. Shout out to those Appalachian folk. Now, here's the next one. My uncle Hank Burchard was a Washington Post reporter and remains an amazing writer. I'm sorry, I'm talking with my mouth full. Just getting an email from Hank was a treat. He's told me that what he crafts an email, several versions and revising for Maximum Punch. I have a friend who's an author, John Jeter. And John Jeter and I worked together at a music venue. And he and I both introduced the bands from the stage. And I always liked going, and he would say, "Oh, do you want to introduce the group?" And I'm like, "No, I want to hear your wordsmithing." Because he would get up on stage and do these great wordsmith introductions for these bands. And I was just like, that is so cool. So whenever I'm live doing something, I always try and do John Jeter. Hey, John, if you're listening, he's not. Nice. Anyway, so for example, a simple trip to the produce stand to buy beets. I thought this was hilarious. For reasons I have never quite understood, I love beets, boiled, baked, steamed, stewed, roasted, pickled, have vetted, whatever. But mainly I love borscht. Many sinners serve up what they call borscht, and they can go to hell. The only way to get plain, simple, decent, delectable borscht is to make it. And to make it, you have to start with raw beets. Here in the hinterlands, good beets, not to mention decent beet tops, are hard to come by. I came upon some ravishing beets at a farmer's market the other day. Glorious gleaming globes, 2 inches in diameter with exuberant leafy tops. But the proprietor sighed and told me both bushels had just been bespoke by a canny canner who'd gone off to find her husband to haul them away. I waited upon her and begged her to sublet me a dozen. She just stared. No doubt I would have treated her equally cruelly. So bent on freezing portions of borscht to brighten the coming, he loves alliteration, to brighten the coming winter, I'm making do with such sad misshapen beets as I was able to assemble from the 4 food lions strung about along US 29 from Livingston to Madison Heights. They look like they came from Peru by ox cart. All the tops are awful. I had to trim away about a third of the roots, but borscht I desire, and damn it, borscht I will have. We must tear our pleasures with much strife through the iron gates of life. That's funny.
Wow.
I hope I did it justice.
Quite very poetic. Yes.
I like that. I loved all the alliteration.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
The glorious gleaming globes, the exuberant leafy top.
Ravishing.
Yes.
Ravishing beets. I don't think I've ever heard that phrase together.
No, yes. Well, yeah. He never said anything about purple fingers or anything.
No.
Because anybody who's ever prepared beets knows you get purple. Purple tongue, purple fingers, purple pea. No, other purple stuff. Paul Douglas. So John Tyner. right here in the room. My late uncle by marriage, Paul Douglas, was a poet and author. He was a professional tennis coach and wrote mainly tennis books and poetry.
Were you going to switch to his tab?
In Jesus and tennis. He had faith in Jesus and tennis, by goodness.
Were you going to switch to his tab, Max?
Oh, yeah, I need to. Sorry. Thank you.
No problem.
I'm not going to start over. You heard that.
No, that's okay.
He wrote many tennis books and poetry to join his faith in Jesus and tennis. He also wrote a fictional book called The Blitz Kids, based on life during the Blitz of World War II. If you Google him and tennis, you should come across his work. He's got a second one, Miriam Wilma Savage. He was Merriman. He was a poet and journalist. Haven't worked much on his profile, but he had married my sister, the sister of my second great-grandfather. So fun. Finally, a maternal aunt, also a paternal step-grandmother. Not going to ask how that happened. Louise wrote her memoirs and then published them before she turned 90. But I also, we have, let me see. We have, I post the question of the week on my personal profile, and I had June Stearns Buka. I was looking at, has she come in yet?
I have not seen June yet.
She has published work based on her family history, I believe.
Nice.
So June. Roberta Estes jumped in. She has certainly published. I don't have it sitting right next to me, but she's got a great book on Native American ancestry and working with DNA. Now, Katie Rowe, I don't know if you know Katie. She's one of those working at the mills over at Family Tree DNA. And she had a poem published in a children's poetry anthology in the 6th grade. It still counts, people.
Still counts. That's
pretty good. So there's another place we're going to go here. Down to the WikiTree page. Mark Swathert, B.J. Elliott, Laurie Schultz, second cousin Alan Walsh. Original last name was Wasilewski. I just did that one so I could do it. B.J. Elliott, Cressida Cowell, How to Train Your Dragon. How about that one? Everybody knows that one.
Oh, that's real popular.
Elliot Warburton, The Crescent and the Cross, Memoir of Prince Rupert and the Cavaliers, 1849. And Harper Lee, B.J. Elliott. That's pretty cool.
BJ's related to all those people?
Yes.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. I don't know who BJ is, but we should check them out. Two, actually, and this is Neil Barman, Virginia Woolf's husband, Leonard Woolf, who was also an author, but not as famous, and Neil Gaiman. Both
Gaiman?
Yeah, ancestors through his maternal grandmother. Pretty cool. Jesse Stewart, poet laureate of Gwinnett, Kentucky. There's some more Appalachian folk. Rudolph Waldo Emerson, fifth cousin, 7 times removed. That's great. Per Fjimstrom. How'd I do on that?
That sounds good.
6th great grandfather wrote the Sammy Dictionary.
Ooh.
Emily Dixon, 20th great grandmother. And I have a half first cousin, 4 times removed. Norma. Oh, I have one. I read that back my dyslexia. I have a one. Norma Sidney Martin. Let's check that out real quick. And let's check her out. No siblings known, but a nice thing. Why don't people bullet the sources? I don't. But it looks good. It looks good either way.
Yeah.
Nice profile. Need to probably work on that profile for a famous author and get some siblings in there and spouses and such.
Of course.
So that is our question of the week. Woohoo! I got to come back to you guys. There we go. Because I have things. I'm going to hand it off because I've got some really important things I need to do. I got coffee here to go with it.
Okay. Well, then we'll move on to while you're going
through and it's my birthday. I usually move whoever's talking up to the top of the list, but it's my birthday. I'm going to stay on top today.
Okay. I was going to say, Chris mentioned that because he does a webcomics strip regularly, so that counts as being an author.
I think so.
And Hillary Gadsby earlier on shared who she was related to, if I could find that quickly. And also Brian had shared who he was related there. Brian's related to several Walter Scotts, not just the Walter Scott. And Hillary is a relative whose wife is related to Thomas Hardy.
Ooh, Thomas Hardy.
Yeah.
You know what? isn't it Thomas Hardy? Did he write Tessa de D'Urbervilles?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
so.
Yes.
That book is based on the D'Urberville family who lived in a manor in Somerset called Galden Manor.
Ah, nice. Wow. Very nice. Well, let's just end with that.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, though.
Oh, so the profiles of the week this week, in honor of the upcoming Easter weekend, are all colorful, just like Easter eggs are colorful. We actually had a little mini Easter egg hunt for Sophia when she was here on Thursday. So,
how'd you do?
She did well. She did well. Just like we have 3 kids, and our daughter, who's Sophia's mother, is the middle one, and she was always the most competitive and the best at finding the eggs. And it looks like Sophia, once we explained, and after she found her second egg, then she was boom. She was right there.
Excellent.
Oh, it's always fun.
Did you record her first Easter egg hunt?
I did.
And I'm surprised you don't have any video for the.
Well, it's here on my phone, but I haven't queued it up and stuff. Okay. So colorful characters. So we start with Billy Blue, who is a famous convict from Australia. Well, in Australia, but he was originally born in the New York colony. Interesting. He was a convict known as the Old Commodore. And Billy Blue, he eventually ran Sydney's first ferry service. He has his disputed background and date of birth, and there's a whole bunch of details in the research notes at the bottom there. But he was reputed to have spent his whole life in His Majesty's service. He actually fought. So he was definitely over here in North America because he fought with the British in Quebec in 1759. He was Commodore in the HMS Enterprise. So I don't know. There's some Star Trek connections in here later on. I don't know. Which was a receiving ship at Deptford for impressed sailors.
For impressed sailors?
Impressed. I think those are pressed into service.
Ah.
Right. And a Commodore is a very high rank, right?
It is, yeah. But the Commodore there was in quotes. I don't know if he actually ever received a true Commodoreship, but anyways, in 1796, so this is after the Battle of Quebec, he was back living in London, in Deptford. He was a chocolate maker, which is kind of cool, and worked as a laborer unloading merchant ships. Maybe chocolate maker isn't enough that you can live on that alone. You have to get some side jobs. Now, talking about, the punishment not necessarily fitting the crime, he was sentenced to 7 years of labor and transported to Botany Bay for the crime of stealing 20 pounds of sugar.
I'm surprised he wasn't deported to Australia.
Well, that was Botany Bay is in Australia, right?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So he served 4 years in the Prudentia, which is one of a convict hulk. So one of those giant ships that house the criminals, transported to Sydney, Australia in another convict ship, Minorca, which arrived in 1801. So that would have been 5 years. Well, then in 1803, he was made free by servitude. At that point, well, that was his 7 years. Yeah. In 1804, he was living in the Rocks, which is the rough part of town. He met Elizabeth, who married and had a number of children. And then it looks like he sort of turned the corner from his stealing sugar days, and he ran a ferry service, which was very popular. He, yes.
There used to be press gangs who would essentially kidnap men to serve aboard ships that didn't have sufficient crews.
So
that's not fun.
No.
Sorry, go ahead.
No way. So he was even the governors of Australia used him to ferry their families about. Though from time and time again, he was caught with 2 barrels of rum in his boat, and he said, "Well, I just found them floating. I'm just taking them back to shore."
That's my excuse. Every time I come home with 2 barrels of rum.
But he was given his own house on a place which is now where the grounds of Government House is in Sydney. Called it Billy Blue's Cottage. It was hexagonal in shape, a stone hexagonal house. So that's kind of cool. And then later on, he had his own farm, and he increased his fleet from 1 ship to 11. And that's when someone said, well, you've got a regular fleet. I'll have to name you a Commodore. So that's where he got the nickname Commodore from. So it has a very colorful life.
I have to comment that there are way more people who are talking about their convict ancestors than there were talking about their author ancestors.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that was one of our authors, though.
Yeah, that's right.
Her, yeah.
Anyways, there's more details in the profile, so I won't read all of it, but and I encourage you to read it. It's very interesting. It looks like near the end he sort of goes off the rails and becomes very eccentric, wearing a battered coat, top hat around, and yelling at people, making them acknowledge him as the Commodore as he walks by. So I don't know, but anyways, definitely colorful character. And there's a point in Sydney, Blues Point is named after him, so that's kind of neat.
It's a beautiful profile.
That is
very nicely done. Yeah. And then going back in time, way back before the first millennium, roughly 925 to 988, born in Scandinavia, Harold Blatant, also known as Bluetooth, the Eighth, Gormson the Eighth, formerly Gormson, also known as Gormson. So this one starts with the research notes. Which is interesting because it says this biography is an attempt to tie together information from historians, archaeology, and sagas and legends. Of course, when you're going this far back in time, there's a question of, what is real and what is, been made up and mythologized. But there is actual evidence that this Harold existed, not just one of those mythological persons in Scandinavian lore and sagas. His birth and death years are estimated and not certain, as is his ruling period as the king of Denmark and Norway.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that is neat that that there was actually a person, and we can piece together some pieces of it anyways. Some of it is a little fuzzy, but that's better than nothing. He was ruler over Jutland, Zealand, and the Danish Isles about 958, then extended his power to Norway. So that led me to think Zealand, being, I guess, is part of Scandinavia. So is New Zealand named after that? And why? And I thought New Zealand was, discovered. Well, obviously there was the original Maori people there, but I thought they were English people that had.
They sound a lot like those Aussies, don't they?
Yeah. So were they Scandinavians who discovered it first, or anyone know? Anyone in the chat? Anyways, that was one question that popped out at me that I didn't have an answer for. I thought I would throw it out to my friends. Anyways, this is a really well done profile. And
Dutch explorer Abel Tasman is officially recognized as the first European to discover New Zealand.
Okay.
So there you go.
And Abel Tasman is from?
He's Dutch.
He is Dutch. Okay. Well, there we go. Okay.
So is that a representation of the profile subject? I can't pronounce his name.
It's his stone. Okay, so Harold Blatant or Bluetooth.
Okay,
so Blatant is his yes, I guess in Danish or Norwegian? Denmark. Yeah, no, he was originally from Denmark, and then he took over Norway, right? Yeah.
Right, because I recognize Gorm. Gorm is a Danish name.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, there we go. It's interesting. There's at one point there where it talks about the proper last name right here. So Harold is his given name. He's the son of Gorm, so his patronymic should be Gormson or Gormson in modern day Danish, not Gormson, which is Swedish, which is funny because, well, I mean, maybe there's subtleties in the way you're supposed to pronounce it, but for me, they look like they should be pronounced the same way. But the spelling, I guess, maybe is what they were talking about. Anyways, talks about so the Kumpsen disc, a piece of actual physical evidence from the time he lived. So they do have, and that's part of the archaeology, I guess.
Wow.
Component. Then there's different ways he's known as. Harold Blatant is the one. Blatant is the Bluetooth. Should not be considered a nickname or a middle name. It is a by name. And so I had to look that up. I did look that up. And a by name is like a nickname, but it always goes along with the given name. So it's either before or after. So in this case, Harold Bluetooth is a by name because it goes by the regular name. If they're really popular, then the by name can stand alone. So you could just like Blackbeard, I guess, is sort of a one that stands alone. I don't know, Bluetooth, because there is later on in the profile, it talks about whether he was actually known as Bluetooth. Oh, well, actually, it's right here. I think it is. He was never actually called Bluetooth. It is possible he was never actually called Bluetooth during his life. But there are lots of theories again on that. And Bluetooth might have been the name of his sword. So anyways, it talks about how he came to power and his family and stuff. And sadly, his christening, so he did become baptized. But he died wounded by an arrow in battle with his own son.
Oh, so it's obviously friendly fire.
I'm guessing.
Or not so friendly.
Or not so friendly, yeah. It could have been the son wanted to take over.
He wanted to be
they didn't actually specify that here.
Huh.
So that I'm not quite sure about.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on, we have John Brown. Who I think
everybody's related to John Brown, especially.
It looks like it.
Let me look. Is it Betsy?
Yeah.
Betsy.
I have all green.
Betsy is all green. Betsy goes through her mama all the way through the McMurrays, the Menzies, the Perkins, the Pease, the Osbornes, the Eaglestons, to the Browns. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Solid line. She's 16 degrees. That's pretty cool.
5th cousins 5 times removed.
That's crazy cool.
First one that's cool. Nice girl. So he's my cousin too, but much further. 18th cousin, 6 times removed. So John Brown, son of Owen Brown and Ruth Mills, with the browser extension, one of the options you can turn on is the count at the end of the line. So you see, I can see by the count that he has 16 siblings, and I can see that he has 20 children, because I saw this slew of children here, and I thought, I'm going to lose count if I want to find out how many he actually had. But luckily, that piece of the extension allows me to do that. To look at it. I'm
going to have to check that on.
Yeah, it's very handy. And the other thing is the numbers in the marriages here, that's their age when they got when they got married. So he was 20 years old when he got married to his first wife, and 33 when he got married to his second wife. She was a bit younger, the second one. Oh yeah, there we go. Another by name. Thank you. So John Brown, American abolitionist, advocated the use of armed insurrection to overthrow the institution of slavery in the United States. There we go. He moved his family to northwestern Pennsylvania. He worked in the tannery business and then was postmaster of New Richmond, and he opened a school for his and neighboring children. Sadly, his first wife died after the birth of their 7th child. And then he married the second one and had 13 more children there. But what really prompted him was after the murder of an anti-slavery newspaper publisher, Elijah Lovejoy, by a pro-slavery mob. John Brown declared his intent on overthrowing the institution of slavery. Now, John Brown was a white person. He wasn't a black person. So this was unusual, I think, at the time, that a white person would make, such a strong statement, or at least judging by some of the comments later on in the profile, it sounded like that was unusual to be that strong in his beliefs. He strongly believed that the only effective way to accomplish this, though, was through armed liberation. I put the though in there. The profile didn't have though. And so then the profile goes through a lot of the story. He went to Kansas to help protect against another invasion. And then his retribution for that led to what was called the Potawatomi Massacre, where he and his party dragged 5 pro-slavery supporters out of their cabins and hacked them to death. Doesn't sound very nice. Anyways, there's a lot of bloodshed back and forth. One of his sons was killed right away. 2 others were discovered later and were charged. And in the end, he continued to do this, and he was captured, and then he was hung along with some of the others. So, good, he had good intentions, for the outcome, but not sure about the tactics he used. But someone wrote in a poem for him. So these are the quotes that I thought were interesting. Harriet Tubman herself described him as being the only white person that she'd ever met who actually thought that slavery was a life or death issue that really needed to be treated like that. And Malcolm X said, if you meet a white person who says they're in favor of Black power, find out what they think of John Brown. So much. And then Eugene, the poet, says, John Brown of Kansas, he dared begin, he lost, but losing won. That's interesting. Moving on. This is my closest profile, but this is an actual direct ancestor of mine, apparently. Blanca of Castile is my 27th great-grandmother.
Wow.
Isn't that wild?
And what are her dates again?
1188.
Okay. Would have to be back there.
That's pretty cool.
Way back there. Yeah.
And there's a portrait that dates back that far.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
So this is how. So I'm her 27th great-grandson, along with I don't know how many over thousands of people.
I fell asleep trying to read through it all.
Yeah, I know. So through my mother, my mother's father's mother's mother's father. Oh, look at this, mother's father, mother. Wow. There's some. Anyway, all the way. So a lot of all the French family, and then when do we French? Oh, all the way up to Capet. There we go. So it's total French side. She herself, though, Blanca, was born in Valencia, so Spanish initially. Daughter Alfonso Sanchez and Eleanor Plantagenet.
At that time, I was going to say, though, at that time, wasn't that area Moors?
Oh.
Or had they switched over? It looks like they may have switched over by then. When did the Moors fall? Did they fall? They're such a great influence still.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Anyway, she married Louis VIII of France, Louis Capet. And she was the regent. So she ruled France after her husband passed away and her son was still a minor. And then when he was on his crusade, his 7th crusade as well. So there we go. That's Granny.
Prince Greg.
Yeah, right. Greg. Yeah. 3 millionth in line for this one. On to Nigel Arthur de Grey, CMG, OBE. Born much more recently, 1886, in morning, hi Azure, in Suffolk, England. Son of Arnold de Grey and Margaret Maria Ponsonby. Passed away at the age of 65, 25th of May, 1951 in Piccadilly, London, England. He's considered the greatest hacker of the First World War. We talked about the Second World War hackers and code breakers when we talked about Alan Turing a few weeks ago, but this guy preceded that in the First World War. And his biggest achievement was in breaking down the telegram. What was it called? The Zimmerman telegram. So he helped it go the Zimmerman, which had been sent in code from the German Foreign Secretary, Arthur Zimmerman, to the German ambassador in Mexico, Heinrich von Eckhart. And Germany wanted Mexico's government's assistance in World War I in exchange for Germany's assistance in helping Mexico reclaim the American states of Arizona, Texas, and New Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll help you, and then you can get these 3 states back that used to be part of Mexico. But the public disclosure of this possible secret Mexican-German alliance facilitated the United States getting into the war. And then later in 1917, he was promoted to run the service, the intelligence division.
Interesting.
And then, of course, because of that experience, he was still, during the Second World War, of course, he still worked in that area for the Government Code and Cipher School at Bletchley Park, which is where all Alan Turing and his gang were working. And he concentrated on the traffic that came from the Enigma cipher machine that we had talked about, and also then later on, after the war, worked on decoding Soviet cable traffic.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why is his Noel de Grey copyright sign crown?
Oh, that is interesting.
Is it supposed to be parenthetically C? Because I know that when you type parenthetical C, it often pops up as a copyright symbol.
Right.
Yeah, that is. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Crown.
I didn't know if it was something.
Who's his profile manager?
Oh, profile manager is Russell Butler. And he's also part of the Notables project.
Yeah,
I just noticed that, and I thought it was interesting because I have to type C a lot that way.
Yeah.
Because I run a nonprofit, so the C often I have to really wiggle it to make it work as a C.
As a C, and not just
not the copyright. Yeah.
Yeah.
It says
if I'm doing bullets and I use A, B, and then when I get to C, then it turns into the copyright symbol. Yeah.
But Nigel de Grey, it even shows up in his name though. GSL.
Up? You mean up here?
Yeah. No. De Grey. Yeah. See, but on the picture at Crown. So yeah.
The picture is copyright. You mean?
Yeah.
Let me look at the picture.
It is required to have the Crown copyright. That answers the question.
Okay.
I just
because
thought that
it's
was
from
odd.
It's an official picture from the British government.
So you have to put the copyright in Crown.
Oh.
It seems like you'd have a comma, maybe. It just looks odd. Sorry.
You're right. It does. Yeah.
I'm being OCD.
Yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah. You agree that she's OCD? Or
Yeah.
you agree that it's odd?
Yeah. All of the above.
All of the above. Sadly, to end off Nigel's, to make it a little grayer, sorry. Just a few months after retiring, he died of a heart attack.
Oh.
So that's very sad.
You can't enjoy your retirement. That's not fair.
No. I'm planning on being longer retired than I had to work, and then some. So
you go, man, go.
Yeah, that's my
I know better because I know that even though you're retired, you're doing lots of work.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, retired.
Yeah.
John Elroy Fox, also known as Red Fox. And interesting, so that someone has included Sanford as a nickname for him.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because, of course, his most popular or most famous role is as Sanford from Sanford and Son. Fred Sanford, actually. Did you remember that his first name was Fred?
Yeah.
You remember that?
No.
Yeah.
Now, I remember what his wife's name was. Do you remember his wife's name? Because he always, whenever he was faking a heart attack, oh, I'm coming for you.
Yeah, I gotta remember because I do that too. Oh, now don't ask me that.
I'll let you think about it. Probably someone in the chat will answer if you don't. But anyways, he was born in 1922 in St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis or St. Louis?
Elizabeth?
St. Louis.
Yeah.
St. Louis. Okay. I want to say St. Louis. I think
it's D answer too. There we go. Elizabeth.
But anyways, you would know better than I. So
look, Greg.
It's his last name his last name at birth. What?
Go into the.
Oh, right, of course. Sanford. His
Oh,
son of Frederick Sanford and Mary Alma Carson. Yeah, Fox was his stage
stage
name.
name.
My bad. Yes.
My
I
bad.
scrolled by that too fast. Yes. So Sanford and Son. So he used his own name. Well, he used his dad's name actually in this series. Interesting.
And it's interesting though that at that time he had such control that was used. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Talk about breaking glass ceilings. That show did break a lot of glass ceilings. Yeah.
Yeah. He was singing and performing early on. Left Chicago for New York in '39 with some friends. They had a street band called the Bonbons, and John and John, who was Sanford, played the wash tub bass. I can see that. Early in his career, what's that?
I can hear it.
You can hear it. He started using Red Fox. He sold 200 million copies of a comedy album in his over 50 comedy albums. Wow. And of course, Sanford and Son. Married 4 times.
His comedy albums, don't listen to them with your kids.
Oh, so many of them were like that, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Or fortunate.
What's that?
Or fortunate.
Or fortunate if you really, yeah, no, I guess you're right. Anyway, he had a heart attack. He had a heart attack on set when he was filming a show called The Royal Family, and then died in 1991 in Los Angeles. And
I want to know.
Yeah.
It's so rude.
Uh-oh.
Did he say, "I'm coming, Elizabeth"?
At the end? Okay, well, you'd have to choose which one of the wives he's actually coming to.
Were any named Elizabeth?
No, there was an Evelyn. His first one was Evelyn, which is close. But he married on July 8th of 91 in Las Vegas, and then he passed away on October 11th. So Keho Cho, his most recent bride, was, under 6 months, like in just a few months.
Well, and how young was she? And was it really a big one?
It doesn't say here.
Okay.
Okay, we're moving along. I'm gonna have to step. Rose Urbana Maddox Brogdon, born in 1925, Boatz Marshall, Alabama, daughter of Charlie Yancey Maddox and Tallulah Gertrude Smith. I don't get to say Tallulah very often in these profiles.
It's a good name.
And Rose, because rose is a color like pink, right? That's how come she got included here. But also because she was one of the pioneering women of country music.
First woman ever to record a bluegrass album solo.
There we go.
Where was she born?
She was born in Alabama, Marshall, Alabama.
So is that in the Blue Ridge? I want to know. Is that up in the mountains?
I don't know.
I'm looking it up.
Look it up. Yep. She was the 5th of 7 children of a failed sharecropping family during the American Depression. So yeah, blues would be something that would come naturally, I suspect. They moved to Modesto, California in the early 30s. Hopes of a better family life in England.
Thank you very much, Appalachian.
What's that?
She's Appalachian. Yep.
Yay.
She's a mountain girl.
Yeah.
Oh, look. I shouldn't have even asked.
Sandy's in the house.
Sandy's just in here to make sure I give a shout out to them.
That's right.
Sorry.
That's right.
Hey, I have to answer this. It's my mom.
Oh, your mom. Okay.
It's a birthday call. Be right back.
Hi, Mom. So she performed with her brothers, and then she had a solo career. She had Sing a Little Song of Heartache became a top 5 country hit from '62. And then she continued her musical career, even singing up until into the 80s. And she received a Grammy nomination for her CD, $35 in a Dream, just 2 years prior to her death. That's pretty impressive. Here's all her chart singles. There we go. So she died at age 72, kidney failure. Okay, people have all these details. That's great.
Yeah, beautiful. Well done.
Nice. That is your other closest one, Sandy. Betsy?
Samuel Purple?
Yeah, he's
Samuel
your other
Purple.
closest.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And my closest are Rose Brogdon and Samuel Purple.
Oh, neat. So Dr. Samuel Smith Purple, born 24th of June, 1822 in Lebanon, Madison County, New York, son of Lyman Smith Purple and Minerva Sheffield, passed away at the age of 78 on the 29th of September, 1900 in New York City. He was a notable 19th century physician, avid collector of books, whose name is known to New York genealogists as the editor of Marriages from 1639 to 1801 in the Reformed Dutch Church, New York, which was published in 1890. So he was born in rural New York community of Lebanon, son of his father was a tanner and a shoemaker. His mother was the daughter of a physician. So his maternal grandfather, was Dr. James Sheffield. He attended school until the age of 13 and then moved to Earlsville. When he was settling his father's affairs, he formed a notion for studying medicine and devoted much of his spare time reading medical books. And then he became a doctor. He started a course in Geneva Medical School. And then he lived in poverty, worked while building a private practice. Anyway, the profile is very prolific. It goes through all aspects of his life. Interesting, the last 50 years of his life, he became a collector of books, and then that led to his interest in genealogy, and hence the reference to earlier that so he creating that that tome about the genealogical of Dutch. What was it again? Dutch Reformed Dutch Church marriages. Mm-hmm. So a doctor and a genealogist. So very appropriate for a WikiTree profile.
You have a note here from Joan who says Greg Acadian used DIT, and if you haven't watched The Lion in Winter, you should. Plantagenets.
Ah, nice. Okay. Yes, the Canadians are, the D name. Right. Thank you. I haven't seen The Lion in Winter. Shirley Jane Temple Black. And so because of her second marriage, where her husband's name was Black and she became Temple Black, that's how she got into this category, which is kind of fun. But Shirley Temple, born 23rd of April, 1928, Santa Monica, Los Angeles County, child actress, started acting at the age of 3. At the age of 5, when she did the film Bright Eyes, which is when she sang on the good ship Lollipop.
Lollipop on the good ship. Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, which sold lots of music, 500,000 sheet music copies. Like that's when people bought sheet music so they could play it on their pianos at home or wherever.
Do you three remember going to the store and buying sheet music?
I do.
Oh, I bought sheet music.
Biking to Sam Ash. Yeah, Sam Ash music.
Oh,
okay.
I'm trying to remember the name of the one that I went to as a kid. Pecknell. Mm-hmm. Pecknell Music House. Greg, remember the place where you bought music?
Well, the place where I would get my music it had one shelf with music, and then they sold Electro Homes, like they sold TVs and other things. So it was like
really?
a dual store, because
ours was real music shop, had all that stuff, and it had an entire wall, maybe 50 feet of sheet music, because all the bands, you had to go and buy your sheet music and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry,
it really did not have its own sheet music.
No, I bet not. I bet not.
But when I went to Toronto, my first co-op work term, and I worked in Toronto, I found a shop downtown that had all sheet music. That was all they did. I died and gone to heaven.
Did you think you were in heaven?
Oh yeah, I did.
Well,
my bank account didn't like it so much, but
when I went to Chicago, we had Carl Fisher Music, which is now gone, no longer there, but it was like a warehouse with 5 rows of filing cabinets, and they let me go back and just browse for hours. It's was such an education.
And listen to what Shirley Temple has done for us. She is teaching us about where to get sheet music,
Oh, so
Such an
she had
educator.
Very good. Yes, that's right. So she had a very successful career as a child actress. She had she had a first short marriage, and then she married Charles Alden Black in 1950. Son and a daughter were born. For a second, she was unsuccessful getting elected to the U.S. Congress, but she did become an ambassador. And later in life, she was an ambassador to Ghana first. Then she was the first female chief of protocol of the United States. And I didn't know this, but you guys might have known. She was in charge of the arrangements for President Jimmy Carter's inauguration in his inaugural ball.
Oh, I did not. That's so cool.
That is cool.
And then later, I thought that was pretty cool. And then she was the ambassador to Czechoslovakia. So very cool. Passed away 2014. Mm-hmm. And then we have Willem Frederik van Orange, Nassau, from Den Haag, Holland, Netherlands.
And you're also very close to him as well.
Really?
Greg. Yeah.
Wow, I've got all this royalty in my background.
Next time I see you, I'll bow before I.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, we're wearing the orange, so that's appropriate.
Yes.
Oh, that's very cool, Kathy. Shirley living one town away from where she grew up. Wow. So that's the first marriage. That was so William of Orange, son of William of Orange, born in 1772. So his father was the Prince of Orange, and there's only ever allowed to be one Prince of Orange. So even though he was next in line, he wasn't called the Prince. He was called the Erft Prince, hereditary prince, or whatever. Princeling. No, probably not Princeling. His parents were the last stadtholder of the Prince of Orange of the Dutch Republic. So now this is interesting. Like his younger brother, he was tutored by the Swiss mathematician Leonhard Euler. Euler is actually pronounced Euler. And he is a very famous mathematician, which is very cool.
You'd get math into this somewhere, Greg.
There's no escape.
That's pretty cool. And then the Dutch historian, I don't know his history as much, but it'd be cool if Herman Tullius was as impressive in the field of history as Euler is in the field of mathematics. Then he was very learned, which is very cool. The profile goes on about all the details in his life is in the foreign courts where he studied. He first married in Berlin to his first cousin, who was the daughter of King Frederick of Prussia. And then they moved back to The Hague. Then there was in the French War, First French Republic declared war on the Dutch Republic, so he had to fight against that. And at one point they were defeated, and he left. And that's when the Stadtholder, the title that he had was sort of stopped being, because it was given over to the Batavian Republic, which isn't something I'd heard about before. Anyways, the profile goes on, talks more and more about other things, and I'm not going to go into the details, which I'll let you read that. But he's done lots of stuff, and this is a very, very long and detailed but impressive profile.
Yes, very impressive.
And again, I love these things up the top here, where they preceded by, they succeeded by.
Succession history.
History. So eventually he did become the King of the Netherlands and Grand Duke of Luxembourg. So that's the end of it. And then the final one is my personal favorite because he's Canadian. And also, I grew up watching this guy. So Lion Hyman Green, also known as Lorne Green. Born on the 12th of February, 19...
We all grew up watching him.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't just a Canadian show, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay. It's funny. I mean, I should have known it was set in the States, but for some reason I thought it was a Canadian.
You thought it was Canadian?
Country and Western show. I don't know. Weird.
Yeah, it's set out now, Berta.
What's that?
It's
Yeah,
out. It's set in
could have said
Alberta.
it. So yeah, son of Daniel Greenblatt, Green, and Dora Granovsky. It was a Canadian
I have to
radio
point out that he was born
in Ottawa. Yes, I read the date, but then I got distracted. Yes, he was born in Ottawa. Woohoo! But then eventually, like a lot of Canadian actors, they get sucked into going down to LA, and he died in LA, Santa Monica. But anyways, born in Ottawa. Woohoo! Canadian radio broadcaster, actor, singer, television personality, but best known as the patriarch for the Cartwright family, Ben Cartwright, on this show Bonanza, which actually ran quite a long time, 59 to 73. So what, 14 years? That's a long time for like.
It was a long
not
time,
a lot of
yeah.
shows ran that long back at that time. So yeah, in 21, when he was only he was still a youngin, only 6 years old. His parents had their original last name, Greenblatt and Granovsky, which they probably shortened to Green later on. He was a flying officer in the Royal Canadian Air Force. So was actually fought during the Second World War. And then he returned to radio and acting work. But he was actually employed by the Radio Canada, and he was an announcer. He was very famous. He had the nickname The Voice of Canada. And then during the Second World War, he still did some announcing, but often what he was announcing the names of people who had passed away. So they changed his nickname from The Voice of Canada to The Voice of Doom. And if you remember what his voice was like, it was very deep and gravelly and very somber, right? So you can picture that, and he would have delivered that with, aplomb and the solemnity that, that would require. But then, and he was made an officer of the Order of Canada, got an honorary doctorate, passed away in September 11th, 1987 in LA. But of course, most famous for starring in the Bonanza.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's it.
Yeah.
There is your wending through the colorful profile of the week.
Nice.
Another great crop of profiles.
Yeah. Well done by people. Yeah. Very nice. Oh, what do you got there?
It was one of the markers from bingo at the WikiTree booth. And it's not really a bingo marker, it's a highlighter. So I now have a WikiTree highlighter in my stuff of WikiTree.
So cool.
I just thought I would share that with you. Cool. He looks kind of funny if I do him really fast.
Yeah.
Gotta get bingo.
Gotta get bingo.
Yeah. Well, photos for April. The photo theme is couples, and we just have a few. So if you are like me and saying I have a great one for this month's theme, I just need to post it. Get going. Alexis Nelson gave us this great photo of her aunt and uncle. Just really, I love the expressions on their face.
Nice.
Faces. Yeah. It was taken in, I guess,
46.
Yeah, 1946. And I was just wondering where the photo was taken, whether it's they met in Hill City, Kansas. But I don't know if that's where the photo was taken. But there's a really sweet story about how her aunt wanted a coat like her mother's, and her uncle went to every store he could find until he found one for her.
Aww.
Really sweet.
Nice.
Yeah. And then from M. Ross, these are I don't know, their third-time great-grandparents, Joseph Fogger Ross and Mary Ann Wotton. The text goes on about, trying to pinpoint dates She did die first, and Amara says there are photos later of this third great grandfather who looks older, or he looks younger in the later photos.
Oh no, that's not a good commentary on that relationship.
No.
People were wondering what she was holding there. Perhaps a prayer book. I'm not sure, but I love that you've got the detailing from the photography studio.
Yeah.
And the Pat Miller's parents.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And she shares how her father kept asking her mother if she would marry him, and she kept saying, "Let's see, we'll see." Until finally, Valentine's Day of 1942, she said yes, and they were married. And when Pat asked her later why she kept saying we'll see, she said, "Well, we just just weren't ready. It wasn't him. She knew that he was the one, but she wasn't ready to get married yet." So. Yeah. And then our fourth and final photo is from Sally Kimball, and her grandparents are picking green beans sometime before 1936. And I just had to wonder about this because, okay, if the photo was taken before 1936, I mean, so many of the photos of that era were, real formal special affairs. And I'm just wondering who was out in the bean field with a camera.
Yeah.
Right.
And just happening to take a snapshot.
Well, the way he's holding the beans, it's like he's trying to show them off. Like, could it be for some type of publicity, or like you look at this produce, or I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah. So, but very, very special to have an early photo like that.
I have one to share.
Oh, do you?
I do.
Okay.
And it's not anywhere official.
Okay.
But one of these people just called me.
Oh,
that's my mom and dad.
Oh,
isn't that cute?
That's sweet.
I love that.
Okay, I'll stop sharing that one.
Thank you. No,
that's hands. That's great.
So I'm going to post mine for next week, and everybody else post your photos for your favorite couples. So our tip of the week, I'm going to come over to 15 for 15. Ooh, and nice. One of my goals is to help everybody get their 15 for 15, or their 30 for 15, or their 45 for 15. So, a lot of my tips are sort of coming out of this list and making sure that everybody knows how to do the thing that will get them one of their 15. And so down here in community, there are things you can do to send some WikiTree love out to other members of the community. Award a wonderful WikiTreeer award, shout out, generous genealogy badges, family or community star badges. So I thought I would show everybody how you do that. And there are two ways to get there. One, the easiest way, and I'm going to go to Greg Clark's. There he is.
We're going to give Greg Clark love today.
Cousins. We're cousins.
Yes, 24th cousins. Very cool.
Excellent.
And so if you are, say I go to Greg's contributions and I see something that he did that was, I really appreciate that Greg did this, and I want to thank him for that. There's a hyperlink right there ready to take you, and then it takes you to this page where you can.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's see. So this shows you. Okay, I could go to your badge page. I bet you have lots of badges.
I have a few
But we could,
badges. Yeah.
yeah, you could go to Greg's badge page and
Yeah.
see if he already has one of these. And if he doesn't, then you can give him one. Notice that there are 3 colors for generous genealogist, and there's no significance to the color. It's just whichever you like, and
my favorite color is blue, so I always give out the blue one.
Okay. I think if someone already has a blue one, you're supposed to pick one of the other ones. You're supposed to give them a bouquet of different colors for that. But the other place, and I'm gonna quickly put this in the chat, this link where I'm going. Maybe we could post that. Thanks. Is this page, which is award a badge, and you can, a couple little guidelines. You can only give 1 badge every 24 hours. You can't give one to yourself.
That's the only way I ever wanted to get badges, and nobody would let me do it.
And no wishing for more wishes.
No. And it's my birthday.
Yeah, that's right.
And members can only receive 1 of each badge. So you select the badge. There's a nice pull down menu. You put in the WikiTree ID of the recipient, and then give a little statement. Why they're worthy and deserving, and you have to keep your praise to 800 words or 800 characters, and then award the badge.
I always say the actual reason. Like I saw Greg doing a great job on the live cast, so I would write that up. Greg did a great job on the live cast on Saturday. Woohoo!
Yes. Yeah. No. People like to see the why, and then there's a little explanation for what each of them mean. Family star is contributions to your own family history. Generous genealogist is helping others. Community star helping the tree and the WikiTree mission. So,
I like your segments, Betsy.
Thank you, Meg.
Yeah,
they're fun.
Moving on, we're running over, and that is perfectly fine. We like to run over, especially if Greg's giving us some great talk. It's always Greg's fault.
It's always my fault.
It was my mom calling. That was there we go.
There we go. Great.
What's happening around WikiTree? We've got stuff happening around WikiTree. You can go to the G2G feed and click on questions. This one is tagged at the top of those questions. If you want to see that, I can do here and show you that. So you've got a lot of things that are tagged, like what's happening. The Challenge 7 registration is open for the New England Historic Genealogical Society, or they also call it American Ancestors these days. Any trouble with the new system for creating profiles? If you have any troubles, go over and click on that. There's 52 votes and 74 answers. So lots of discussion going on that. And have you registered for the April 2023 Connect-a-thon yet, which is coming up the 21st, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
84 votes, 517 answers. So I'm assuming if there's 517 answers, there's 517 people signed up so far. So that sounds like a good crowd.
Cool.
So we can go over to the great post that AON has created for us. I love that she's done that. We're going to give her an upvote and a pat on the back. Thank you, little elf. You're watching us. This is April the 8th. Yep.
I was going to say.
Yeah. I don't know why it's done that. But go ahead.
Can I say something about last Wednesday on the 5th, when we did an Ask Alesh? One of the questions that people had asked about was, is there an easy way to understand WikiTree Plus? So we started off with sort of a simpler introduction to how you can just sort of get your feet wet with WikiTree Plus. And we're going to start our monthly sessions with a simple thing like that before we dive into the really deep questions.
That's good, because a lot of people look at WikiTree Plus as like, wow, there's so much there. Yeah,
there's so much there.
Yeah,
that's cool. I will be watching that.
So we're in our roundup today, April the 8th. We do not have Mag's birthday listed over to the right, but there's also a Saturday sprint going on, Saturday sourcing sprint. The 13th through the 20th, it's the New England Historic Genealogical Society that we talked about. Friday Night Bingo is the Cemeterists Project and the Titanic Project. That's the 14th. The 15th is, again, you're going to see us back here, and it won't be my birthday. Today is your only day to wish me happy birthday. So. But I celebrate my birthday for a week. So the month-long challenges this month are the bio builders, people who died before their 18th birthday, Connect Canada notables, yes, Connect U.S. Black Heritage notables, G2G integrators, Jedi or Jedi, whichever you want to say it, Weird and Great Migration, the Sorcerers, U.S. Black Heritage Connecting, and the April Connectathon registration's coming up, and they're going to be working on U.S. governors. You can also subscribe to the Google Calendar. Let's hop over to Az's project, the social media tab in the Ambassadors Project, and look for the week of Sunday, April the 9th, which is a day after Mag's birthday, April the 8th. It's always easy to remember my birthday because it rhymes, April the 8th. All right.
You're going to flip tabs? Flip tabs?
Oh, no.
Your tab.
Why should I do that? Why should I do that?
I don't know.
How do I keep
you can
that?
Just imagine what you're seeing.
Yeah, just get some good stuff in your brain. So, question of the week is coming up. It'll be posted today, later. One name study Tuesday, one place Wednesday, the Connectathon. Why is that listed for the 13th? Okay.
No, it's.
I wonder if that's because the post is up and reminding people to post about it.
Maybe.
Post. She's in here as. So I think that's reminding people to post about the Connectathon. Get the word out before it starts. And then Friday Night Bingo, the Cemeterists and the Titanic. Yes. Highlighted that day. That's what we figured. So there you go. That's the week coming up. That's WikiTree. That's us. And we have a brand new saying bye-bye. Let me pull that
Thanks
up.
to Azure.
So you guys.
Yes. Thank you, Azure.
Yes, Az. Have a great weekend, and we will see you.
Happy birthday again, Max.
Thanks for sharing my birthday morning with me. You all came to my party. Did you all get the little hats and the noise maker?
Oh, yes.